Good morning and Happy New Year to everybody out there. Hank, Happy New Year to you and congratulations on another great Sunday. 5-1. Awesome.
Yeah, I finished up the Review Journal going 4-1. My loser was Washington. They didn't play at all yesterday. That surprised me. I thought they'd give Philadelphia a game, but Philadelphia's playing well. The question now is, the quarterback got hurt in that game, and they could be hurting. I told you that the Bears were going to go all out to play. I told our listeners that it didn't matter what the Rams were going to do. The Bears didn't want to play Minnesota again next week, and I think that was critical to their performance. They want to play Philadelphia, and when they found out that the Philadelphia quarterback got hurt in that game, that really ensured that Chicago was going to pour it on against Minnesota, which they did. The Bears are good, and they're well coached, and I know they were. A lot of people thought that they'd give it up in the second half, that they saw that the Rams were winning big. But there was another consideration, which was, who do they play next week? And they want Philadelphia. They didn't want to play Minnesota again. Although Minnesota, now there are rumors about the coach in Minnesota. He might be in trouble. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Well, he made a lot of controversial decisions in the off-season that I really didn't understand. I mean, he had a great...
He doesn't make the decisions on personnel there.
Well, he has to have some input to it.
He doesn't. He doesn't make the kind of decisions. The general manager in Minnesota, who I know very well, he used to be with the Dolphins. He makes. He's the guy who makes all the calls there.
Well, then maybe Zimmer wants to move on, because and you're a coach of a team and the general manager is giving you the tools and you have no input. If that's the truth, I wouldn't want to be there. So.
Well, he has input, but he doesn't make the decision.
Okay.
The final call is with the general manager there.
Well, they regressed. They're not the same team as they were a year ago, and whatever.
Well, why? Why did they regress? One reason is that the quarterback that they paid a lot of money to, which was not Zimmer's decision, came in there and didn't do all that well in big games. They were talking about yesterday how his numbers were really good. His numbers were good in games that weren't really important. Well, no, I shouldn't say really important. But every time he was in prime time, or I had a game where the season was on the line, he had a bad game. The other thing with Minnesota was, the running back was hurt for a good part of the season. And then he came back and they fired the offensive coordinator and decided to go back to a running game. Well, they couldn't run against the Bears. And they had injuries in their offensive line, which didn't help them a lot either. So...
Well, there's a lot of teams out there that are going to be searching for talent.
And Pittsburgh almost got beat yesterday by Cincinnati.
Yeah.
And there was a game where, they still were at a chance if certain things fell their way.
Cleveland put up a hell of a battle yesterday at Baltimore, and it came down to the last minute when they were marching to try that field goal. I'd say Cleveland and Greg Williams did a great job. They changed offensive coordinators, they changed head coach in the middle of the season, and they had a remarkable turnaround. I mean, they won 7 games, where the previous 2 years they won 1 game. That was a remarkable turnaround for them. And I don't know, what do you think about them hiring Greg Williams instead of going out into the marketplace and trying to find somebody else?
Well, once they got rid of Hugh Jackson, they had a hell of a team.
And do you think they should hire Greg Williams as their head coach?
I think he earned it.
He did, but they're still looking. They haven't offered him the job.
Yeah.
And that's a
Well,
tip.
they may be looking for. I'm, you know, I can't explain what Cleveland does.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. They make no sense whatsoever. Greg.
Now the Dolphins. You know, I got some attention because I talked about Marino possibly taking over the Dolphins. Right now, Gase was fired, and Hill is now the general manager. They're saying that he's promoted over Tannenbaum. But I think that Marino is going to have a major role there, and they may put him in over everybody. I think that's a strong possibility.
That would be interesting. Very interesting. Mr. Miami, that's for sure.
By the way, I also told you that I think on Friday, I think on the podcast, I said that that the University of Miami coach was going to resign.
Yeah, you did, and you had that before anybody else. And
He's out. And now there's as far as who replaces him is concerned, you know, it's interesting. Manny Diaz, who was their defensive coordinator, who's very popular there, took the job with Temple. I don't know if they'll go to him and ask him if he wants to stay or not.
They actually just hired him.
What's that?
Diaz took the job in Miami.
Manny Diaz?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. That's interesting because he had, you know, he was hired as the head coach at Temple.
I know. Not that long ago.
Oh, that's interesting because I was told yesterday that he was, you know, he was a guy that they really liked, and he had done a good job as a defensive coordinator. I'm surprised they didn't hire an offensive guy. You know, the other people who were considered, you know, they had offered Rod Shazinski a job as about a couple of weeks ago, and Chud, you know, has a background at the University of Miami, and he turned him down. And then I think they got a problem with the athletic director there because all the Miami sports are on the downswing, and you know, that includes their baseball team, which has been a powerhouse for years. Blake James is still unknown in the city of Miami, and the previous athletic director was revered there, Paul D. And you know, he always made great hires. I don't know. You know, the other people they were considering were Butch Davis, but you know, Butch has done a great job at FIU, and I know that when Butch left there, he didn't leave on great terms because he quit to go into the NFL, yeah, but that was the other name that I had heard. But Shazinski would have been a great hire. Well, I'm good. So Manny Diaz leaves Temple holding the bag.
Yeah, Temple's going to be that's a rough one because they just hired him and now they got to go back in the marketplace. And yeah, it is what it is. What are you going to do? And Marvin Lewis, after 16 years, is out.
Well, that was Mike Brown's call, and he was the one who told Marvin Lewis that they wanted to make a change. I think Marvin Lewis would get hired somewhere else.
Yeah, he was just on the news, and they said that he still wants to coach. Yeah. So he probably
Remember,
will.
he made the playoffs 7 times, never won a playoff game.
I know. It's
I'm disappointed that he's not there anymore making the playoffs because I always went against him.
it's an automatic bet against, right?
Yep.
Well, we got some wild card games coming up this weekend.
By the way, the Gase deal, a guy in the Miami Herald, who's their football so-called expert, had written a column on Friday saying that Adam Gase would be retained, and said that the Marino story rumors were not true. So he was wrong about Gase. Well, what happened was they went up to Buffalo and got clobbered. And the week before, they lost a game at home where their offense was terrible. And their offense was ranked 30th in the league, and Gase was hired because of his expertise and his work with quarterbacks. The quarterback got worse as the season went on. I think they're going to look for a replacement for Tannehill as well. But Tannehill had never won a game in Buffalo. But, I mean, they went up there and gave up 42 points against Buffalo. So the team quit. And, one thing I didn't like about Gase was that he always had somebody else to blame for his own, mistakes. And, he had trouble keeping assistants. And a lot of their star players he couldn't coach. If they were a little bit difficult, they got rid of them. And they're all doing well elsewhere. I understand that Gase now is a candidate for the Denver job. That's where he worked before, and Elway likes him. Well, that'll be interesting.
2 other coaches that you said would be gone are gone. Denver changed, fired their guy, and so did Arizona.
Yeah, well, it's all pretty obvious. And the Tampa Bay guy.
Yeah, he's gone too. There's going to be there's a lot of open jobs. I don't know where all these people coming from to fill these positions. But
I don't know where they're going to find all these coaches to replace these guys.
now they're going to bring up a lot of assistant coaches and college guys, I imagine, if they can get them. It's going to be interesting. It's going to add a lot of variance for next year because we're not going to have any history with these coaches. But it'll be interesting. It'll give us more opportunity for some easy pickings. I like that.
So you've got 3 rematches in the first round of the playoff.
Yes, we do.
Nick Foles will start against the Bears. That's what they're saying. He doesn't have any broken ribs, but he got pretty well beat up in that game yesterday.
That's a 5.5, 6-point line right now. Chicago favored.
Yeah, I don't understand why Dallas yesterday Dallas was not supposed to play their regulars for more than a couple of series, and with the exception of Ezekiel Elliott, everybody played the whole game, and one of their guys got hurt, and that was their big linebacker, who's been probably the top defensive player this year. He got carried off. You have to wonder what the heck that coach was thinking about. I'm watching the quarterback in there playing the whole game against the Giants. They came up with a last-second score to beat the Giants, and I'm thinking to myself, so what? What if what if any of those other guys got hurt? What would have happened if Prescott got hurt? That's just stupid.
I watched the game and I was saying the same thing throughout the whole game. What the hell are they doing with these guys on the field? It was a meaningless game. But then, when I look at the Seattle game, they did exactly the same thing. They played all their people. So,
Well, I think the game mattered to Seattle. They had to win.
Why did they have to win?
They could have moved up if certain things had happened.
And this is a rematch. Seattle goes to Dallas, 2.5-point underdog at Dallas. They played earlier in the year. It's one of the rematches you talked about. The Colts played Houston twice this year. I mean, that's another rematch. So we got a little bit of history going on. The Colts played great last night against Tennessee. They totally dominated that game. Never really in doubt.
The announcer on the Chicago-Minnesota game said that Chicago would probably not want to show a lot on offense. They might hold back because they might have to play Minnesota the next week. I got a question for you. What in Chicago's offense would they want to hold back?
I have no idea.
They are what they are.
Yeah.
They don't do anything fancy. I mean, they have a couple of plays that they throw in if they need to, but there's nothing that's going to surprise anybody next week about Chicago.
No, they're an old school team, plays extremely good defense, exceptional defense, and run the ball. And Trubisky is starting to look better and better. He's making more plays now than he had in the past. He's got more confidence and he's showing a lot of talent.
Well, the one thing that concerns me is that Miller got hurt, and he had his shoulder injury, and he's pretty important for their offense. He's a real weapon in the passing game because of his great speed, and he can catch the ball. He can and he's able to get open, and they're going to need him next week. Although Philadelphia is pretty well banged up, so I don't think Chicago will have too much trouble there. But Dallas, Seattle game will be very interesting. I guess they felt that Dallas didn't play that well a week before, and he thought that Prescott needed to work. It's the only thing I can think of as a reason for him playing like he did.
Yeah, yes, and he probably built himself a lot of confidence with his performance because he did play hard and he did complete a lot of passes, made some smart moves, so it was impressive. But that's against the Giants. This is a little.
Well, the Giants have been playing pretty well going into that game. By the way, Mariota is really going to be was really missed on Sunday. Gabbert did not play very well. He was under a lot of pressure, and Indianapolis is, they're playing well going into Houston. That's going to be a big game now. But the one thing about Luck is he has some lapses in games, which he did against Tennessee. He let Tennessee back in the game with a couple of bad decisions that led to scores. And he's got to be more careful against that Houston defense.
And we got Baltimore held on yesterday, and I mean they easily could have lost that game. The way Cleveland played, they played very tough, but they held on.
Yeah, well, this is a rematch too.
It is.
And
2 weeks ago.
yeah, and they blanked the Chargers. This is a big game for Phillip Rivers. But the Baltimore defense is tough.
This, yeah, I mean, when you see a total, there's the totals on these games, there's 3 of them that are very low. The Indianapolis total's at 47.5, but the others are 42 or 41. But they're defensive ball clubs. Baltimore and Chicago are very strong defensive clubs. The Chargers play good defense. Philly plays good defense. The defensive ball clubs are the ones that are still active, and they're here. And of course, this is wild card weekend, so anything can happen. And then of course we got the bowl games. We got some really good bowl games coming up. We got the championship game. We got Clemson against Alabama again. And
I'll tell you, Clemson really, and Notre Dame just shouldn't have been there. When in the final analysis, their weaker schedule, I think, helped them to be in the position they were in to make the Final Four. But they were no match for Clemson. Clemson had too much speed for them. I had taken 13 points, and when the game went to 11, I doubled down on Clemson and came out pretty good in the game. And then in the Alabama game, I had gone over 77.5, so I got the over. But the game ending and the 6-yard line killed me because I had Alabama. Now, I think I'll tell you something interesting about the Alabama game. I thought Saban lost it at just before halftime. He went off the rails and was, screaming about something, and he went nuts. And even when they interviewed him, he was still angry. He was hurt, and I think he lost his focus in the second half. I don't know if a lot of people agree with that, but he was so hot. And I know Saban. He doesn't get over it so fast when he loses his temper. And I think he lost his focus a little bit in the second half, and they came out, and they really led Oklahoma back in the game, although that's not to take anything away from Oklahoma's offense. But they kind of, on their own offense, didn't maintain their momentum in the second half. They just weren't the same team in the second half.
No, I agree. I agree 100% with you, Hank. And they were not impressive, and their defense didn't show me as much as I thought they would. I wasn't impressed with the way they played.
Well, their defense was great. I made a first half play on Alabama because I knew they were going to come out of the blocks firing. That's what I had heard, and they went ahead 21-0. Right away. So, that was no problem. But,
yeah, I agree. Well,
but they blew a 21 point, they didn't blow the lead. They won the game. But I think Clemson, that number, I think because of that, what should have been a 10-point, double-digit number is a lot less.
It's a lot less because Alabama didn't look the way they normally look.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're right. Well, we got a big day today, tomorrow. Happy New Year, by the way, Hank, and everybody out there. Happy New Year.
You too.
I hope 2019 is good to everyone, and everybody stays healthy, and we have a prosperous 2019. Hank, we'll be back here on Wednesday. We'll probably know a lot more about it.
Well, I have 2 days off now because I went yesterday, instead of going to watch all the games, I thought I don't need to watch them all anymore. So I went to dialysis after I finished the television show, and I watched the 2 games there. But unfortunately, one of them was the Giant game, and the other one was the New England game. So I didn't get, but I left there early and got home in time to watch, the important games yesterday afternoon. So, and the Colts game, they were pretty good yesterday, and I felt bad for Vrabel because, there was one point in that game where they had come back to within a touchdown.
Yeah.
And they just made all kinds of mistakes, penalty-wise, but that interception, that when they got to within striking distance of the Colts, I think they had the Colts a little bit rattled because they had generated turnovers themselves, and they had no offense early in the game, but all of a sudden Henry had the 42-yard run, and they were making a game of it. And then Gabbert threw that horrible interception when they were on the move again.
Yeah,
and they were in a position where they could have tied the game.
It was 24-17 when he did that, and that was the end. That was absolutely the end.
Yeah.
Hank, we're running along here. I'll run out of recording space here on the digital, but we'll talk again Wednesday. Everybody, welcome back. Thank you for listening to us all year long, and we hope we can bring you some profit in 2019 as well. Thanks, Hank.
Okay, all the best. Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.